Mary woke at 3 a.m. and shivered in fright. This was her second night staying in a small hotel occupying a first-floor ensuite facing Rue Émile Zola in Leucate village in southern France. It was a calm night in late September, and Mary had travelled here by Ryanair from Dublin to Carcassonne 2 days ago. She was booked to stay a further 8 nights on her own, to think, dream and relax, following a tough few months at home. The wind had picked up only in the last half hour, and the cool breeze was blowing through the partially open window, ruffling the curtains and flapping the outside shutters. Mary was alone, wearing a light sleeveless cotton nightie, and felt the cold draught. She drew the blankets around her shoulders to gain some warmth and protection. She sat up in the bed, listening intently. Far away in a distant street, she could hear a dog barking and voices arguing. Maybe some stragglers heading home after an overindulgent in a local bar. Leucate was a commune in the Aude province, 20 miles northeast of Perpignan, and 2 miles inland from the Mediterranean coastline. She had travelled to France to rest and recuperate, following separation and divorce from her husband after 10 years of marriage. As a consequence, she had to pay her ex a lump sum of money from the value of a small terraced house in order to gain ownership and to continue the mortgage as a single person, with no further ties or obligation. Mary was now entering a new chapter in her life. She was looking forward to a fresh start and the opportunity to experience her newfound freedom for fresh opportunities and ambitions. She was born into a farming family in rural Ireland and had migrated to Dublin with a leaving cert, looking for a job and the experience of life in this fast-paced cosmopolitan city. She quickly made friends, both around Rathgar, where she rented a bedsit in an old Victorian house, and at work in Smithfield as a fledgling graphic art, printing and design studio. Mary adapted immediately into the advertising and corporate environment as a rookie designer, innovator and negotiator in the hectic Celtic Tiger era. After 5 years' experience, she had developed her own trademark style within the company. She'd served her induction and apprenticeship, and the company had expanded its client base substantially in a buoyant economy. She was regarded as an essential asset in the company, and her work was her passion. So much potential was not ignored by management, and she was offered a shareholding and directorship, fearing that she could be headhunted by a rival. In her social life, she mixed well with friends and acquaintances, parties, nights out in clubs and lounges, now emerging as hubs of creative music. She avoided the reckless rave scene, a magnet for drugs, spiked drinks, and degenerate clientele. Also, she had new interests in classical music, jazz, art, theatre and fine cuisine. This was far removed from her Roscommon roots. The social scene there was a dismal, dour and made worse by monotonous country and western entertainment with bad acoustics and appalling lyrics. Weekends spent back in her home place endorsed her opinion that leaving the farm and pursuing an interest in art design and graphic printing, marketing and presentation skills would advance her reputation and career. Roscommon was her roots in childhood and adolescence, of which she cherished. But this brought memories of an austere upbringing. Roscommon was her roots in childhood and adolescence, of which she cherished. Long hours toiling at farmyard and domestic chores endured to keep the farm viable. Her siblings seemed to sustain and indulge themselves in farming and country living. Her brother had now taken over the farm from the aged parents, and her 2 sisters were married and living locally, rearing young families. Mary had known Martin for some 2 years through her work acquaintances. He was a copywriter in an advertising agency off Baggot Street. Suave, sophisticated and ex-public school. He was witty, gregarious, and his family lived in Blackrock. They appeared to have little in common from a social standing comparison. But it's often remarked that opposites attract. Martin was 8 years her senior, but Mary had an outgoing, mature manner. She was ambitious and opinionated. He recognised her talent and commitment from early on. They met initially at a party in Moorhampton Road, although they had known each other through working on projects for various advertising campaigns. Mary and Martin gradually became an item, though never with romantic or sexual intent. It was a pragmatic liaison, usually attending concerts, dinners, coffee, brunch, or at informal parties. They had an understanding that they enjoyed each other's own space, relishing their privacy, yet appreciating their own company together. Eventually, and inevitably, they decided to live together. Since bricks and mortar seemed a more solid investment than renting, they wanted to purchase a renovated artisan red brick in Stoneybatter. It was cheaper than the south side, and Mulligan's was their favourite gastro pub round the corner. What caused Mary to marry Martin, no one knows. Had she run out of suitors? Or had Martin an anxiety dilemma about middle-aged bachelorhood? Again, the jury's out on that one. But, by mutual consent, they each signed the registrar's book in Grand Canal Street Lower, one grey October afternoon, just over a decade ago. They were now officially married and joint owners of a trendy 2 up, 2 down. A double celebration that they would both live to regret. Yet, Mary endured the next 10 years with grace and diligence. There was never any real passion or desire, and jointly they just got on with their careers, realising it was just an arrangement, a marriage of convenience. Was there acrimony, deceit, or loathing? No, there was not. Were they equally naive, stupid, or ignorant to have persevered in this charade? That was their choice. Either way, here she was now, awake and alone, in a small hilltop village in southern France. Mary eased herself over to the window and closed it firmly shut. Curtain fell rigid and would no longer distract her to resume a further few hours of sleep. She'd come here as a therapy. The last few months had been quite eventful, and now she needed complete rest and calm in this commune, nestled close to the Mediterranean coast, with scenic views of the southern Pyrenees and westward glimpses of the Corbière Hills. As she lay back in her warm blanket and calm surroundings, she resolved that the next 10 years would be more fortuitous than the last. She knew she should never have rushed into any liaison with Martin, as she now entered the way to self-fulfilment and inner happiness. Perhaps there are many people like Mary who have experienced and endured a fruitless, loveless liaison. All they seek is better luck and good judgment towards a rational future. The moon shone brightly over southern France that night. The wind gradually abated as the dawn began to break across the Pyrenees. The first glimmers of light appeared as the sun rose over the eastern horizon, glinting across the ocean towards Leucate beach and the commune village behind. Mary lay sleeping in a warm bed in the first floor apartment overlooking the street. When she would awake from her slumber, she would face a fresh new day. She was just another tourist who had walked the streets and ventured down towards the sea to enjoy the warm breeze and perhaps swim in the blue, translucent water.